It's time to revisit one of the most explosive arcade games to ever hit the scene, NBA Jam. This isn't just any old sports game. It's a cultural phenomenon that changed the arcade world and still has fans buzzing today. We're going to explore how this game came to be, what made it stand out, and why it's still relevant. Back in the early 90s, when arcade cabinets were the kings of gaming, NBA Jam dropped like a dunk from the free throw line. Imagine walking into a noisy arcade filled with the beeps and chimes of pinball machines. And there it is, NBA Jam. Drawing crowds with its over-the-top gameplay and booming voice announcing, he's on fire. This game wasn't just about putting a ball through the hoop, it was about fiery dunks, shattering backboards, and fast-paced action that felt both like a sports broadcast and a superhero movie rolled into one. So, if you think you know everything about NBA Jam, stick around. You might just find out there's more to this arcade classic than big heads and monster dunks. So where did the magic of NBA Jam begin? The game's journey to becoming an arcade legend starts in the early 90s. But the seeds were planted way before anyone heard the iconic swish of the net. The mastermind behind NBA Jam was none other than Mark Turmell, a developer with a knack for creating engaging games. He had this crazy idea, a basketball game that wasn't just about simulating the sport, but turning it into an adrenaline-pumping arcade-style experience. Working with Midway Games, Turmell wanted NBA Jam to capture the essence of basketball but inject it with the kind of energy that matched the arcade crazes of the time. You know, games that kept you glued to the screen, quarters lined up along the bezel waiting for your turn. They went all out, focusing not just on the mechanics of basketball but on amplifying everything to the max. Gravity-defying jumps, turbo boosts, and no fouls. This game was all about fun, not rules. The early 90s were a boom period for arcades, and sport games were everywhere, but none of them popped quite like NBA Jam. Turmell and his team saw the gap. There was nothing that combined real sports with unreal action. They set out to fill the gap by using the latest technology to create something visually spectacular and highly playable. They used digitized graphics, a new technique which involved filming real players and converting those recordings into the game. But getting these graphics right wasn't easy. The Midway team faced significant challenges, especially in terms of hardware limitations. Arcade machines had limited memory and processing power. Yet NBA Jam managed to feature high-quality graphics and fast-paced gameplay simultaneously. They achieved this through clever programming and optimizing the game's engine to handle rapid screen refreshes and sprite changes without lag. This made NBA Jam not just a marvel of game design, but also a technical powerhouse that showcased what arcade systems were capable of. The technological innovations of NBA Jam extended beyond the arcade cabinets. When the game was ported to home consoles, it brought with it high expectations for performance and fidelity. Adapting the game's advanced graphics and sound to consoles like the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and Sega Genesis was no small feat. These versions had to be carefully reworked to deliver an experience close to the arcade origin within the original constrained resources of home systems. The inclusion of real NBA teams and players under official license added that authentic touch, making it a hit not only with gamers but with basketball fans too. NBA Jam was a game that didn't just simulate basketball, it celebrated it, exaggerated it, and turned it into a high-energy competitive party that anyone could enjoy. When it comes to the gameplay, NBA Jam took the basic idea of basketball and cranked it up to 11, packing all of the action you could want and then some. At its core, this game is a 2-on-2 basketball showdown, stripping down the typical 5-player team to focus on the core of arcade fun. Why crowd the court when you can give each player more space to pull off insane moves? The controls were simple, a joystick and 3 buttons. Pass, shoot, turbo. That's it. But within those simple controls lay the depth that kept gamers hooked. The turbo button was your best friend. It gave players a burst of speed, essential for crossing opponents or making a break towards the net. But it wasn't just about speed. Timing your turbo could lead to spectacular dunks or game-changing interceptions. This was key because NBA Jam ditched the fouls and free throws. It was all about the speed and spectacle, not stopping the game for minor infractions. And who could forget the dunks? NBA Jam took them over the top. Players could leap what seemed like 10 feet into the air, slamming the ball down with such force that you'd half expect the arcade machine to shake too. These weren't just any dunks. They were superhuman feats, bringing an exhilarating, almost comic book style to the game. Then there's the iconic On Fire mode, a reward for scoring 3 baskets in a row. Once you were on fire, your accuracy and speed increased dramatically, turning your player into an unstoppable force for unlimited time. This wasn't just a cool feature, it was a strategic element that could turn the tide of a game, making comebacks thrilling and defeats crushing. NBA Jam also included a roster of secret characters and Easter eggs, which became a beloved aspect of its legacy. You could play as some political figures, celebrities, or even the game's developers themselves, adding a layer of humor and replayability as players tried to unlock these hidden gems. NBA Jam was one of the first sports video games to secure an NBA license that allowed it to use real team names and player likenesses. This was a game changer. It meant players could engage with the game on a more personal level, picking their favorite teams and stars, which wasn't just cool, it was a massive draw for NBA fans who might not typically be into video games. This licensing wasn't cheap or easy to come by, but it was worth every penny, setting NBA Jam apart from its competitors and making it a must-have title. Then there were the sales. NBA Jam made over $1 billion in quarters alone from arcade machines. Yeah, you heard that right, billion with a B. It was one of the highest earning arcade games of all time. But its financial success didn't stop there. When ported to home consoles, NBA Jam continued to dominate. It was one of the best-selling games in 1994 across multiple platforms, proving that the appeal of this arcade smash hit was versatile and wide-reaching. Marketing was another area where NBA Jam excelled. Midway knew they had a standout game on their hands, and they pushed it hard. Promotions were everywhere, from TV spots to magazine ads, even to in-store displays. The game's face-melting action and catchy phrases were front and center, grabbing attention and not letting go. They also leveraged the buzz from the arcade version to fuel anticipation for the console releases, a strategy that ensured the hype never died down. But NBA Jam's business story isn't just about making money. It's also about how the game was distributed and shared around the globe. Midway partnered with Acclaim for the console versions, expanding NBA Jam's reach beyond the arcades to the living room worldwide. This partnership was critical because Acclaim was known for its distribution strength, especially in markets where Midway was less established. Moreover, NBA Jam's influence extended beyond the arcade. It impacted the development of sports video games by showing that adding an element of fantasy and fun could attract a wider audience. This philosophy influenced many future sport titles, which started to incorporate more entertaining and exaggerated features, changing the sports gaming genre as a whole. But NBA Jam's cultural impact wasn't just about being popular. It changed how people gathered and interacted. Arcades became hotspots where people didn't just come to play, they came to watch. The game created a communal, competitive atmosphere that was part spectacle, part sport. It was as much about who was playing as it was about how they were playing it. Players cheered, trash-talked, and celebrated, turning each match into an event. In many ways, NBA Jam can be credited with keeping the arcade scene vibrant at a time when gaming systems were beginning to dominate. It reminded people why arcades were exciting, because they offered and shared intense gaming experiences that you couldn't replicate at home. The original arcade version of NBA Jam hit the hardwood in 1993 and instantly set the standard for what a basketball game could be. But it wasn't just about the first slam dunk. It was about keeping that momentum going. Enter NBA Jam Tournament Edition in 1994. This sequel upped the ante with more teams, more players, and new features like player substitutions, which added depth and strategy to an already frantic gameplay. Tournament Edition also introduced new power-up icons that appeared randomly on the court, giving players temporary boosts or abilities, which was a hit and added even more competitive fire to the matches. But the evolution didn't stop at the arcade. NBA Jam made a seamless transition to home consoles, as mentioned earlier, with the versions for the SNES, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, and Sega Game Gear. Each of these versions aimed to capture the magic of the arcade experience but adapted to the strengths and limitations of the respective platforms. The console versions included features like additional modes, customizable controls, and even exclusive content to make each offering unique. In terms of sales and popularity, these home versions were nothing short of a slam dunk. They helped ensure that NBA Jam wasn't just a fleeting arcade sensation, but a staple in the gaming collections of players at home. These versions also expanded the game's audience, reaching players who might not have frequented arcades but still wanted in on the high-flying action. As the 90s rolled on, NBA Jam saw several more sequels and updates, each trying to capture the original spark in the rapidly evolving gaming landscape. Games like NBA Jam Extreme and NBA Hang Time expanded the brand further with 3D graphics and new gameplay mechanics, but still keeping that core NBA Jam feel. Fast gameplay, outrageous dunks, and that all-important bragging rights battle. And let's not forget about the 2010 reboot for the Wii, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, which brought NBA Jam back with updated rosters, HD graphics, and online play, proving that the game still had legs decades after its original release. This version was a hit, reminding old players what they loved about the original while introducing the fun to a new generation. NBA Jam's ability to evolve while staying true to its roots is a big reason why it's remained relevant in the gaming world. It's more than just a sports game. It's a bridge across different eras of gaming, constantly finding new nets to shatter and new players to set on fire. Well, there you have it, a jam-packed journey through the high-flying, backboard-shattering world of NBA Jam. From its explosive debut in the arcades to its reign in our living rooms and its undying legacy in pop culture, NBA Jam isn't just a game, it's a phenomenon. It broke the mold, set the hoop on fire, and dared future games to jump higher. As we look at the esports and gaming landscapes of today, filled with lifelike graphics and VR headsets, it's clear that NBA Jam still holds court. It taught us that sometimes realism can take a backseat to pure, unadulterated fun. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to hear Boomshakalaka as they dunk over their work week worries? So here's to NBA Jam, a game that was much more than its cheats and secret characters. It was, and still is, a reminder of why we play games in the first place. To challenge ourselves, yes, but to laugh, cheer, and maybe, just maybe, catch fire once in a while. And with that, we drop the mic right into the net. Boomshakalaka. If you enjoyed exploring the history and making of NBA Jam, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And, as always, thank you for watching.